Coming up on Access Tech Live.
Meta officially announces the Quest 3, new AI, and new Ray-Ban Stories smart glasses. Be My AI releases to the public. Mike Buckley joins us, and Shaun Preece is with us as we debut Season 2 of Shaun of the Shed.
This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo. The latest in tech and accessibility every week. Follow us and get involved now at Access Tech Live.
Hey everyone, welcome to another busy week in the tech world. I am Stephen Scott. Marc Aflalo is with me as always. Marc, how are you this week?
I'm doing great. I cannot believe that the train keeps on chugging along. More tech news. I don't know when it's going to end. We're going to be really worried when it does end, Stephen. We're going to be sitting here going, what now? Nothing to talk about.
Yeah, no, it feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like we've got so much news coming at us at the moment, and we're going to get to all of that today. Our guest, as you mentioned, Shaun Preece. We are premiering his brand new episode of his new season of the Shaun of the Shed on YouTube and also on podcast as well. We're going to be joined by Shaun to talk through those headlines, including all the meta news that we've had in the last couple of days. Lots of rumors that tend to come out before these events. We're going to get into what actually was announced. We're going to hear about that, and also that big news about Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes, of course, this fantastic app that lots of blind people, hundreds of thousands of blind people around the world are using to connect with sighted volunteers and get daily assistance. They have moved on with AI. Of course, AI isn't everything, Marc, right? I mean, you're shortchanged these days if you don't include AI in your product. And that's exactly what Be My Eyes have done. So we're going to hear more about that today with the CEO, the chairman and CEO of Be My Eyes. Mike Buckley is going to be with us this hour as well, talking all about this new feature, what it means for blind and partially sighted people. So before all that, let's get into the headlines. Marc.
Now, Access Tech Live headlines.
Well, as we said off the top, this was Meta's week on the stage, the big stage in California, as CEO Mark Zuckerberg officially announced the Meta Quest 3, its third virtual reality headset, which features a higher resolution display, upgraded processor, and gives people access to mixed reality, which allows you to overlay digital items into the real world. Here is Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
So when you put on Quest 3, you see the physical room around you. Only now it is a canvas that you can bring your digital objects into the world. You know, Quest 3, it understands your space so you can play with the world around you.
The new headset also featured upgraded cameras, a lighter design, and new depth sensor. It's available to pre-order right now, Stephen, and the Quest 3 starts shipping October 10th for only $699 Canadian dollars. Now, second up on Zuckerberg's list was AI. The CEO announced new personalized AI bots for different uses. Now, each personality is powered by a celebrity's image. So you got the likeness of Mr. Beast, Paris Hilton, Roy Choi, Kendall Jenner, Tom Brady, amongst many, taking on those personas. And each bot has a specialty like dance, sports, cooking, and will all be available through Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and a variety of other chat methods.
So let's say you're planning dinner. You got Max the sous chef, who can help you come up with a recipe. Or let's say, you know, you're writing something like a keynote and you're not really sure where to get started. You can ask Lily, or personal editor AI. Or maybe you're traveling and you're trying to plan a road trip with your kids. You've got Lorena, who's going to be able to help you find the best barbecue.
Now, finally, Ray-Ban Stories smart glasses are getting a pretty interesting upgrade. The new version features better cameras, speakers, and Meta's AI is built right into the glasses. Now, a future update is coming down the road where the Ray-Ban Stories smart glasses are also going to be able to identify things using the cameras. It's going to allow it to do things like ask, help me fix this faucet, or what am I looking at?
You're going to get this state-of-the-art AI that you can interact with hands-free wherever you go. So, you know, let's say you're grilling with your family and you want to know how long you need to be cooking that chicken for. You know, or you're playing pickleball and hits the line and you want to know if that's a fault. She disagrees, but you know the truth. Or let's say you just want to settle a debate, you know, some trivia as you're going out through the world. Just ask your Meta your Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and they'll respond and get you the answer.
Now, Ray-Ban's updated stories are available to pre-order now as well, and they start at $369 Canadian with delivery on October the 20th. Be My AI, the automated version of Be My Eyes, is officially out of private beta and available for everyone who wants to give it a try to do so. More on that a little bit later with Be My Eyes chairman and CEO Mike Buckley, but Buckley did say that development will always continue to evolve at a rapid pace.
I want the community to know that, we are committed to incredibly rapid development and iteration here.
Tuesday marked the release of Apple's latest Mac operating system a week after iOS 17, called Sonoma. Now, the free update includes a wide range of new accessibility features for vision, cognitive, and speech support. Among the list of capabilities are phonetic suggestions. Those will appear when you dictate or edit text via voice control. Animated images like GIFs that can be paused in Safari or Messages. Live speech, where users can type messages to be spoken aloud during FaceTime and phone calls. And the ability to customize text size on Mac apps. And finally, the ability to connect made-for-iPhone hearing devices to your Mac. Tuesday also saw Microsoft rolling out their new integrated Copilot features in Windows. The new features bring Microsoft's ChatGPT-powered Copilot right to your taskbar and menus, available whenever you need it throughout the operating system. Here's Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella.
Today, we're announcing Copilot, our vision for everyday AI companion for you. We are building Copilot into all of our most used products and experiences and allowing you to summon its power as a standalone app as well. From Bing and Edge to Microsoft 365 and the newest version of Windows.
This week, we recognize WordPress Accessibility Day with a number of events held across the country yesterday and today. The goal of the day is to encourage and empower developers to think about embedding accessibility for all of their users. Now, WordPress is a popular blog creation company, grew from a simple idea into one of the world's biggest and most dominant content management systems. Currently, it powers over 43% of the world's websites. Maxwell Ivey is known to many as the blind blogger, as an accessibility advisor. He spoke at last year's celebration and explains why WordPress is so important to the disability community as a whole.
The reasons for, my appreciation of them is frankly their sincere effort, because even from day one, 11 or 12 years ago, they have always been dedicated to the prospect of inclusion and accessibility for all users, not just the visually impaired, not just the hearing impaired, but they were even ahead of the curve when it comes to things like epilepsy and autism and neurodevelopmental diseases, and those people being able to not only access websites created in WordPress, but to be able to create their own websites in WordPress.
And finally, Stephen, AirPods Pro 2, and of course the latest software update in iOS 17, added adaptive noise reduction to the new AirPods, which I believe you had a chance to experience. Is that true?
Oh, yes. It's a fantastic feature. And, this is one of these things that you often might think is an accessibility feature for deaf and hard of hearing people. But actually, you know what? It's for everybody. And I was out, I had the occasion of getting a train recently, and the assistant who was taking me to the train was on my left side. I normally ask them to walk on the right. I'm very fussy. But on this occasion, they were walking on the left, and I was holding their arm, and I had an AirPod in my ear. And I wondered, am I going to have to take this AirPod out in order to hear the person? But actually, no, because of this conversational boost feature, as I'm sort of essentially looking at the person or turning my head towards the person, the mic is picking them up clearly. The microphones inside these devices are incredible. And even on a crowded train, that noise of being on a train or even on a plane is dulled down considerably. This can be great for people with autism. You often find there's the children, especially with autism, often wear these big, heavy headsets that they have to wear. But you can actually use AirPods or even the AirPods Max to accommodate children with autism and even older people with autism as well. So, really great set of features which are built with the disability community in mind, but of course benefit all of us. So yes, I love it.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people using it for hunting where it actually dulls the sound of gunshots, or in just environments where it really does help balance the overall environment around you in a way that helps you hear things a little bit clearer, which is pretty cool. But, lots of cool updates and lots of things that we always find in these operating systems as we get time with it. It's not always announced on a big stage, like Apple does or Microsoft does, right, Stephen?
No, that's right. And that's why this show exists, right? Because we get the chance to talk about it. We're perhaps the only show on the planet that's talking about these particular features. So if you're disabled and you're into tech, this is the show for you. Now, of course, one of the great things about being here is we are live. So we can get your reaction to the stories we are talking about. And of course, there was plenty in there to talk about in the headlines. But one thing we also like to do is throw a question out to you. Now, Mark, I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to ask you the question, and I want you to answer it for a change. So if you were to end up in the metaverse and you could only take one thing with you, if you were stuck in there and you were going into the metaverse and you could only take one thing with you, what would it be?
That's, you think that I would think about the answer to this and have it ready at a moment's notice, but I don't. It's either going to be a really comfortable pillow, because you got to sleep somewhere, or maybe my phone. But so that I don't know if there's maybe a loophole here, but if I bring my phone, then maybe I can order things like Uber Eats after the fact. Does that count?
Yeah, I think that's a cop-out. But look, I want to say as well, I think we should ban phone from the answers, okay? Because fine. Everyone's going to say their iPhone or their Android phone, right? But I want you to think outside the box on this one. So get in touch with us. Mark, how do people do that?
Well, of course, you can connect with us on social media. It is at Access Tech Live on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. You can also email us. It's feedback@accesstechlive.com as well, and you can get involved. Again, the question is, if you could only bring one item with you into the metaverse, what would that item be and why? And as Stephen said, no phones. Coming up, we're going to break down the headlines with the co-host of the Double Tap Daily podcast, Shaun Preece. He is with us next.
We want to hear from you. Follow and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back. This is Access Tech Live. I'm Stephen Scott. He is Marc Aflalo. And we are joined today, Marc, by, let's just say, my other half when it comes to the daily radio show. That is Shaun Preece from Double Tap Daily. He's also the host of his own show, which we're going to be premiering season... Are we on season 2? of Shaun of the Shed? I think we are. Season 2 of Shaun of the Shed, we're going to be premiering the first episode right here on Access Tech Live. Well, a clip of it, at least. So we'll get to that. But first, Shaun, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm okay, thank you, Stephen. I've told you before, please don't refer to me as your other half. It confuses things. But it's good to be here.
It is great to have you here. Of course, we do talk every day on Double Tap, so you can check that out on your podcast app or noon Eastern every single day on AMI Audio. But let's get to the news of the day. Of course, we want to talk about Meta Connect. Look, you and I, we both watched this event together, and we kind of watched it expecting not to get overly excited. I want to ask you about virtual reality and mixed reality and just kick off there, because, you know, is there any value in this as far as you're concerned for us blind people?
Well, oh, wow, you're throwing me under the bus here. I think it's yet to be proven. Now, I know there's a lot of work going into accessibility when it comes to virtual reality headsets. There's a whole consortium that are behind making sure that these technologies are accessible. But the fact of the matter for me, and I'm quite happy to be proven wrong, is that it's just a very visual technology. Of course, this could be incredibly helpful. It's a new way to interact with technology for other disabilities. But when it comes to blindness, I'm not entirely sure. I think we need to wait and see. VR blocks out the reality you're in visually and takes you to another environment. Mixed reality can overlay digital information over your actual environment, which could be cool, and it could be useful for low vision, for finding outlines of objects and whatever else, and giving you high contrast. It could be very useful. But if you've got no vision at all, or no usable vision, I'm yet to be convinced by at least the headset side of it.
You know, Shaun, you talked about bringing yourself into a different, universe or metaverse, let's call it, of course, with it being meta here.
Yes.
And there's a social element to the metaverse, and I think this not only relates to people who are blind or low vision, but there's a lot of people who don't like leaving the house, who don't socialize on a general kind of daily basis. Do you think that as a social tool, the metaverse might be an advantage to those people, might help people get out of their shell a bit?
Well, it's a good point you bring up there, because isolation when it comes to disabilities it's a big problem, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to talk about it, but it absolutely is. It's difficult to socialize if you've got a disability. So social media in general, I think, it can be a good thing. It can also be a negative thing, but on the whole, if it can get you in contact with people, I think it is a good thing. And the metaverse has the possibility and the potential to get so many people together in a kind of unique way that we haven't seen before. Again, it's just early days. It's really difficult. It's like when the iPhone or touchscreen smartphones were first released. It was really difficult for us to think, how on earth could that ever be accessible? It's not until someone showed you, oh, I see, now I understand. I'm kind of in the same place when it comes to virtual reality and even the metaverse, to be honest.
And extended reality, you talked about, low vision and contrast and stuff like that, but we kind of forget the audio side of things. If there's extended reality, let's say, you're walking down the street, of course, you're not necessarily wearing, a headset like this, but if there's extended reality that's overlaying things like directions or some kind of visual components that does and do translate well to audio, that could be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not interested in any part of this at all, because the technologies that are coming from virtual reality and the metaverse are very interesting. We've got spatial audio, of course, because it's not just about immersing yourself in the visuals. There's also the audio aspect of it, and we've seen great use of that in many apps, but Soundscape especially. You've got a location you can mark and you know exactly where it is because it's beeping away in 3D space around you. It's incredibly useful. And plus, when it comes to VR, the ability to understand the environment around you. In order to overlay digital information, it needs to know what the real world objects may be, flat surfaces or actual objects itself that it can recognize and grab info about. Again, once we can digitize the world, it makes it much, much more accessible to us. So I'm all for it.
And there was an example at Wimbledon where, of course, the big tennis tournament in the UK and, of course, known worldwide, and a great opportunity to try out virtual reality in that setting. So it kind of brought you out of the house, it brought you into an environment, and even able to enjoy that particular match or that particular event without having to feel isolated either. So, you know, in that particular case, a phone network there had actually worked with Wimbledon to actually have special cameras in position that were beaming live into these VR headsets so that people could get really close up to the action while wearing the headset, but still being immersed in the experience. That is mixed reality in almost the ideal setting, right?
Yeah, again, a really clever use of the technology that I wouldn't have thought about myself. I'm thinking of things like eSight headset, which, you know, basically is just a camera which gives you a sight of the world, but allows you to manipulate, you know, saturation or contrast or even magnify in on the real world. But the way that Wimbledon did it with their setup there was a different direction and very, very clever. And that's the things why I'm still watching this with interest. As I said, I'm yet to be proven to me, but I'm pretty sure something will be gained out of this, and it's still quite an exciting market to watch.
Now, Shaun, we've talked about various audio sunglasses and glasses. I know the Ray-Ban stories, especially this generation, does excite you. What is it that excites you about them?
Oh, because they don't look like a diver's helmet or a welding mask. They are just sunglasses, and that's so important. Who's going to go out and about? For me, this sort of technology is very interesting when it comes to actually being able to get out and about, mobility, things like that. And a headset just isn't going to cut it. So sunglasses, just a normal pair of sunglasses, maybe a little bit chunkier, I'm not entirely sure, but something that's not going to stand out like a sore thumb. Really interesting. And these especially, a line that Mark Zuckerberg said there really stood out to me, and he was saying that, you know, we were waiting for the display technology to evolve, and it's coming on, but we're not quite there yet, hence why we need the bigger headsets for VR. But he said that it was the AI that he thought was the core of these glasses. And these glasses in particular, you can ask questions of, and they're using the Meta AI to answer you. And obviously for us, if we're just primarily on audio, this is really exciting. Some nice sunglasses, great audio, but the ability to ask questions and a camera in there as well. You can live stream. And it was mentioned that in the future, you know, maybe you can ask questions about what the camera could see. Again, for us, the possibilities and potential, amazing.
Now, Shaun, I know you had a lot of experience with Be My AI, the new service, of course, that's available to the public. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Stephen had a chance to actually sit down with the chairman and CEO of Be My Eyes, Mike Buckley, and talk all about the new service that's available. And then after that, you're going to come back and tell us about your experience. So do stick around. It is Access Tech Live. We'll be back with Mike Buckley in just a moment.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back. Now, we've been talking this week about Be My Eyes, a fantastic app which has been available for a number of years, and it brings together sighted and blind and partially sighted people, and it allows people who are sighted to aid those who are blind and partially sighted, like me, who use this app to identify odd socks, or, you've dropped something on the floor, and generally that would mean it's gone forever. But with a sighted volunteer on the phone, being able to see through the camera on my device, they're able to help me locate that item. And it really is a life-changing app. Now, they've actually developed a new feature just in the last few months using the latest artificial intelligence. And this week, I got the chance to sit down with the CEO and chairman of Be My Eyes, Mike Buckley, to tell us all about it and the work that they've done with OpenAI. Could you tell us perhaps about the relationship that you have with OpenAI, how that got started, and also explain to us the time frame, because I think this is rather interesting, from the point that you learned you could implement these features from OpenAI into Be My Eyes to the point that you were able to roll it out.
It is. Thank you for saying that, and I want to say thank you to OpenAI, and I want to give a giant thanks to not only our engineering team but also you guys, right?
I'm telling you, our
all of the
computers
beta
are
testers
too
who
good.
helped us really put this product through its paces, Stephen. I think it's improved remarkably over the last several months, but thank you both, and thank you to all the people who are blind or low vision that helped us out in the beta.
The feature has been in beta now for a good few months. How did you know this was the moment to launch it? How did you know now was right?
Overall, better performance, right? And how do we define that? Accuracy of image description is certainly one. That was very important to us. Two, we had to do a number of UI, UX things that the beta testers were especially helpful for, right? How to make the product easier to use. Perhaps the most important thing is the partnership with OpenAI. They and we both felt that from a safety and efficacy standpoint, the product got to the place where it needed to be. And I think anecdotally, what we've received back from our community is that hallucinations are very rare now. Whereas I think they were a little more frequent in the beginning. And thankfully, OCR, and reading text generally has dramatically improved as well. And so I think that we're confident that the product almost all the time will perform in a manner that we think our community deserves.
You did take a long time to launch the feature fully. Be My Eyes is used by hundreds of thousands of blind people every single day. Was losing trust a concern if it wasn't right?
Yeah, it's it's everything, right, Stephen? I will say though, it was very hard to wait as long as we did, and it was only 4.5 or 5 months, I guess, but having seen the difference that this can make in people's lives, we had a sense of urgency about wanting to get it out there because of the utility of it. The passion of the community around this product is frankly unlike anything I've ever seen. I have been lit up more than once by members of our community for various things, not the least of which is, going off the cuff and saying, hey, let's admit 5 people to the beta test who are listening to Double Tap, which I did with you guys a couple of months ago. And I heard from a few folks about how that maybe wasn't fair to people who had been waiting, which was good feedback. That wait was difficult because we did have a sense of urgency, but I think we feel very good about the product right now. We're still open to feedback, and I'm sure it will come in a voluminous fashion.
I want to talk a little bit about privacy concerns, because of course that is real across this new emerging world of artificial intelligence, right? We're all concerned about privacy. But interestingly, one area where OpenAI was trying to make sure privacy was number one was by blurring faces. And this actually created a barrier to the blind community who wanted to access their photos in more detail. And you got quite a bit of feedback about that.
Yeah, I would put the word fixed in quotations. I think it's really important that we have to be honest with people, right? The reality is, in the overwhelming majority of places globally, robust facial descriptions and human descriptions will be available. And we're incredibly excited about that. However, there will be, and there are, certain geolocations where faces will be blurred. And I want to be transparent about this. Illinois is one place where the facial description experience will not work in the near term. They have a 15-year-old law, the Biometric Information Privacy Act, that prohibits using biometric scanning to identify faces. Now, we don't do biometric scanning, right? It's not facial ID. What we do is, and what OpenAI does, is facial description. However, that particular law has resulted in past litigation that's cost companies literally hundreds of millions of dollars to defend. And even though we don't identify faces, and even though we believe our descriptions did not violate this Illinois Act.
But this is something you've managed to sort out, right?
We are taking a cautious approach initially to protect the service for the millions of people who are blind and low vision that are going to use it. And we're going to try to work with Illinois and any other jurisdictions that have laws that may pose a question as to, you know, whether or not it's legal to give these descriptions of faces. And so, you know, in Illinois, the experience will not be the 100% experience. And I'm disappointed by that, but it's a necessity. And we're going to be transparent and honest about it. And we are going to be talking to legislators in Illinois and hopefully getting some type of a carve out there. I'm sure it'll take longer than all of us want. You know, when I started reading some of the things publicly on Twitter, Facebook, elsewhere, that, you know, where there was anger when the faces were blurred, you know, my initial instinct was a little bit of defensiveness, or, you know, hey, you know, come on, this is OpenAI's product, they were doing this, and we're just trying to do what we can for the community. But you know what, the more people you talk to, you understand the passion, right, and the desire, and frankly the need for that description. That it's not enough just to build a good product, that we also have to keep in mind advocacy all the time as well.
So how are you feeling today now that the feature is available widely?
Well, again, and I appreciate both of your help on this, as well as the community of beta testers. Look, I'm incredibly excited. We still want your feedback, and there are many ways to do that within the app. I want the community to know that, you know, we are committed to incredibly rapid development and iteration here. And I do want to thank our CTO, Jesper, and our team of engineers. These folks haven't slept a lot in the last few months. The good thing is they're happy about it, but I want to thank them a lot for their efforts. It's been an exciting process.
You know, at the core of Be My Eyes, it's all about people. What is the role of volunteers going forward?
Well, Stephen, as you know, it started out as a volunteer service where someone who's blind or has low vision, through a quick press of a button or a voice command, can be connected with a human volunteer to help with their sight needs. So you're trying to find your green sweater, you're trying to set a thermostat, where's the tomato soup amongst the cans in your kitchen, and that volunteer then describes that image to you. What we've done today is now launch globally a means for you as a blind or low vision user to get that information on your own through artificial intelligence by pointing your phone, clicking one button to take a picture, and getting a robust visual description of what's in the camera angle. And so it's really an evolution and extension of the initial purpose of the app, which was to provide assistance with sight. And now our community is hopefully empowered to do more of this independently on their own when they choose to do so.
Now, everyone will want access to this immediately. When can our viewers expect to get access to this feature? You're rolling it out over the next few weeks, right?
Yeah, it's first of all, thank you to OpenAI. They have been remarkably great to work with. We are a very small fish in an enormous pond that they're playing in right now, but they've been great to us. We had our first conversation in February about this. We launched it together 6 weeks later in March, and now 4.5 months later, we're launching it to the world. And so the relationship has been excellent, and I can't thank them enough.
I can only imagine what kind of week it has been for you. Congratulations on the launch. Do come back soon and tell us more about it. That was Chairman and CEO of Be My Eyes, Mike Buckley. Great to talk to him this week, and of course, a fantastic week for this app. And like Mike says, you can expect this feature to roll out over the next couple of weeks. So if you haven't got it yet, don't worry, it is coming.
And guess who played a big part in the rollout of that AI service? Our own Shaun Preece, who's going to be joining us back here in just a moment, as well as the debut of season number 2 of Shaun of the Shed. So stick around. It is Access Tech Live.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Hey guys, welcome back. And we are back here with Shaun Preece, who is joining myself, Stephen Scott, and Marc Aflalo here on Access Tech Live this week. Shaun, you've just heard the interview from Mike Buckley there, of course, Chairman and CEO of Be My Eyes. Now, you had the chance to get onto the beta early. It's been out for a good few months now, 4.5 months, I think Mike said. What were your takeaways, in particular, in terms of the evolution of this app, right? Because you saw it from the very beginning and to where it is now, or at least this feature within the app.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really interesting, actually, because this is the first beta program I've been involved in where there was just so much interest and so much passion from the developer as well, in the form of, weekly meetings and constant communication. And Marc said, I had something to do with it. I really didn't. I was a very small part. I was just someone who participated in that beta program. But there were some people on that program who lived and breathed this because they could really see the potential of it. And some incredibly smart contributions about the prompting, about how it should, almost the personality of the AI in Be My AI, how it should present itself, and it was absolutely amazing. It was. I'm not saying that other developers aren't interested, in the beta, but it was just the sense of interest from Be My Eyes, and everyone there was absolutely amazing. It was a really good experience.
Tom, was there anything that caught you by surprise or gave you any light bulbs going off over your head when you used the service? Was there anything that surprised you in terms of just the way it worked?
Yeah, absolutely everything. Yeah, it's really hard to describe because I was telling people on the launch day, I was saying, oh, you've got to try this app out. And they said, well, okay, so what does it do that's different from other apps, Google Lookout or Envision or Seeing AI? it's hard to explain. It's just a case of just try it, and then you will see. There's so many deep and personal things I've seen posted about people using Be My AI, about them looking at their own personal photos, or, you know, a picture and a description of the smile on their newborn child. And for me, I totally understand that, but I also had an emotional feeling when I was able to read the takeaway menu on my own, and then not only that, I was able to say what's the dishes that contain chicken or whatever. Now, I'm being a little bit flippant about that, but quite honestly, the ability to do that on my own and not feel like I'm burdening someone to read a menu out to me, and taking a picture of a top of yours, a T-shirt, and being able to drill down into the details of not just it looks like a black T-shirt or a blue T-shirt, but, you know, being able to drill down into the logo that's on there or the text that's on there. And when you take a picture of a scene in your home, for example, getting not just the object recognition, which everything can do, it's a settee and there's a lamp, but it's a cozy room and this person looks happy and things like that. That's the extra thing that AI gives you that you don't get with anything else. And it's just absolutely amazing. Every time you try it out and you ask a question, you think it won't know this. I'm gonna stump it here. It's got no idea. And it comes back with something and you go, wow, it's amazing.
It is amazing, and I, you know, as from one blind guy to another, right? We use this and we learn a lot more about our environment, which is cool. But of course, this is in a way limited. You might argue that's great, but you know, it is limited to pictures at the moment. Where do you see this going, and what would you like to see next out of this capability of AI and images and photos and all of that?
Oh well, yeah, definitely. It's going to be video, isn't it? That's the thing for me. Again, mobility is a huge issue if you're visually impaired, and being able to have the amount of detail and emotion and context and whatever else that you get from a picture, if you can get the same sort of thing from video, from a live camera feed, from a wearable that you're wearing. You know, we've got the 10-yard problem of trying to find entrances. GPS can get us to a building, but if we can use something like Be My AI to say, okay, the door appears to be just to your left and about 10 feet, but getting that in real time and updating as you're moving towards it and moving around, that's going to be fantastic. And I think it will happen.
I definitely think it's going to happen. And I think, Shaun, that if you think about the show today, talking about Ray-Ban stories and how we could potentially see some kind of synergy with a service like Be My AI, imagine that out in the real world. That is just a whole next level in the kind of things that could be done. But you know what? Every month, you're going to be joining us to premiere the next episode of Shaun of the Shed. Can you tell the audience what Shaun of the Shed is, who it's meant for, before we kind of dive into it?
Oh, wow. What is Shaun of the Shed? Everyone asks me that. What is it? Well, it's just something where I'm showing just how useful technology can be to anyone, really. But, you know, in my case, I'm a blind person, so I'm showing just what I use technology for. And it's just adding to the resources that are out there. The more people that we can let know that technology isn't scary, it doesn't have to be frightening, and it can enable you to do things that you would otherwise have to ask for sight assistance. That's basically what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just present it in a more, I want to use the word accessible, but I mean that by friendly, you know, less jargony way. So that's what I'm aiming to do. If I'm succeeding or not, then they'll have to tell me. But yeah, the aim is just to get the information out there and just show what technology can do.
But without further ado, we're going to throw to that episode right now. There's obviously a longer version with all the details in it on YouTube, but we'll tell you all about that in just a second. So here's a little taste of this month's episode of Shaun of the Shed.
Smartphones are great. Of course they are. We all know that. In fact, many of us have replaced our laptop or desktop computer with just a smartphone. But if you want to do anything more than just a short email or short text or insult your Facebook friend, the on-screen keyboard just isn't going to cut it. What you need is one of these, a Bluetooth keyboard. Ah, I love you, Bluetooth keyboard. These are great too. With one of these, you can write a novel on your smartphone if you wanted to. But more than that, because it's not just about text entry, you can also navigate and interact with your smartphone with a Bluetooth keyboard. They're great when you're commuting or traveling and you want to get some real work done on your smartphone. There is one problem. It's huge! They're just too big. You can't just slip one in your inside coat pocket or in your jeans pocket. Well, not unless you're MC Hammer or Coco the Clown. It's just too big. Let me introduce you to the Hable.
Shaun of the Shed, an AMI original podcast.
Welcome back to Shaun of the Shed. I am Shaun Preece. This is my shed, and this is the show where I talk all about the technology that can be so damn useful to us as blind or visually impaired people. And yes, in this episode, I want to talk about the Hable One. What is it, and why do you need one? They call it a Bluetooth controller or a smartphone keyboard. And that's exactly what it is. It's just the same as when you use a Bluetooth keyboard with your smartphone. You can use it to enter text or just navigate and interact with your smartphone, be it an iPhone or an Android phone. It's just like a Bluetooth keyboard, except there's far, far fewer keys on the Hable One. In fact, there's only 8 buttons on the device. It's roughly 5 inches by 2.5 inches, but it's just thicker than your standard iPhone or Android phone because it's about just under an inch thick, I would say. But still, it fits nicely in the palm of your hand. So let's take a look at this thing. It's black in color, and the buttons on the face of the device are white. 6 buttons in the center on the front face of the device. These are Perkins-style Braille keys. Just to the left of those buttons is a longer button, which is button 7, and then there's also a longer button to the right of those central 6 buttons, which is button 8. On the top side of the device is the power switch. On the underside is a USB-C port for charging it and a little lanyard hole. Anyway, that's the description of the Hable One. I suppose now we should talk about the elephant in the room, and that is, how can 8 keys possibly replace the keys on a Bluetooth keyboard? Again, I suppose this takes us back to the discussion of, is this a Braille device? Yes, this is a Braille device because the way you enter text and control it is through the Braille keys. If you're not a Braille user, don't be frightened off. At least I would say give it a go, because it's surprising how you can pick it up. And if you are, then definitely you're going to love this thing. Now, to use it, you hold it between 2 hands with the buttons facing away from you. You will find that your thumbs naturally rest on the top next to the power button. You also find that your fingers on both hands just naturally rest on those 6 Braille buttons. Type in text as you would expect, fairly straightforward. Once you pick up grade 1 Braille, it's okay, it's absolutely fine. But also use those keys to navigate around. For 99% of the things you want to do with your phone, I'm pretty sure the Hable One has a command for it. And it's all about, the more you use it, the more you pick up these commands. And there's so many resources available on the Hable website. They have a YouTube channel with lots of tutorials on it. Anyway, that's enough talk. Let's get on to actually using this thing. As I said, this does support both iPhone and Android phones. And out of the box, you simply power on and you will see this device, the Hable One, in your Bluetooth settings of whatever device, your Android phone or your iPhone. Go to the Bluetooth settings, and in there you will see the Hable One. Simply double tap to connect to it. And the Hable One itself will determine and detect what operating system it's connected to, either iOS or Android, and set itself accordingly. I will say as well, which is something I really love, is that if you're switching between an iPhone or an Android phone, you'll find that most of the commands that you learn for navigating around are actually the same on both devices, so you don't need to learn separate commands for an iPhone or an Android phone. It's great. Now look, obviously, when it comes to all of these devices, which are specifically or targeted at or designed for even the visually impaired, we all know there is a price involved. There's supply, demand, a smaller market, R&D, smaller companies. I totally understand that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, yes, this can do everything a Bluetooth keyboard can do in a much smaller package, but then you are paying for that privilege. So it is something to keep in mind. If you want to find out more, you can go to iamhable.com. That's their website. iamhable.com. Now, I mentioned it will work on iPhone and Android smartphones, but also on that website, it mentions, of course, it would work on tablets as well, which I don't see any reason it wouldn't, but I haven't been able to try that out. So any Apple tablet or Android tablet, you should be able to use this with as well.
Shaun Preece, and thank you for being with us this week. A pleasure to have him, as always, and he'll be back, of course, with the next episode of Shaun of the Shed in couple weeks time, or 3 or 4 weeks time. If you're interested at home and check it out, Shaun of the Shed, you can find that on YouTube, youtube.com/@Shaun of the Shed. On social media, he is at Shaun's Shed, and Shaun is spelled SHAUN. Coming up, we're going to field your responses to our question of the day. What are you bringing into the metaverse? Well, we'll find out after a quick break here at Access Tech Live.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Hey guys, welcome back to nearly the end of the show. I am Stephen Scott. Marc Aflalo is with me as well. And Marc, of course, the great thing about doing this live every week is we get the chance to find out what our viewers are saying. And we have put a very specific question out this week. And tell us the question.
I can do that. It's if you could only bring one item with you into the metaverse, what would that item be and why? And Stephen, you added the little caveat: it cannot be your phone. So
yes,
we
sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
obvious.
Guys.
I mean, obvious reasons, right? Your phone. Why would you want to bring your phone with you? But here's a good one.
Everyone's going to say phone, right? Everyone's going to say, "Oh, bring my iPhone," and then it's like, "Oh, that's easy." No. I want to make this difficult for people.
Yeah. Well, I think Kathy Ann might have one on you because she writes, if I were off to the metaverse, I'd bring my Quest VR headset. In the metaverse, right? It is a metaverse, right? So I feel like I could use it to keep in touch with the real world. That's a spin I never thought of.
I did not think of that one, no. That's good. Thank you for that, Kathy Ann.
Leanne, 22, writes, I would bring a sleeping bag. Yes, I know it's a digital universe, but there's no replacement for a good night's sleep.
Very true. You must get your sleep at night. Well done, Leanne.
I mean, that kind of goes with my whole, pillow idea. I think you need to get a good night's sleep. You need to have your pillow. We need to really think this, I think, next time, because the metaverse is digital, so I'm not sure how a lot of these things would necessarily translate to it.
You buy a digital pillow. It'll be fine.
Well, yeah, that's where we start talking about NFTs and things that we just don't even want to have to explain right now or even try to understand
Which are now worthless, by the way. Don't know if you saw that story this week. Completely worthless.
Jenny Blackmore, she wrote, I'd bring my refrigerator. A girl's got to eat.
I knew a guy once who actually backpacked with a fridge on his back. So I guess that could work.
I have so many questions about that, but I don't think we have the time to get into it. Wow, that's absolutely insane. A refrigerator. How do you keep that charged?
Well, hey, listen, you can buy ones now that are USB powered. That's a thing.
Solar?
Of course, you can get them really small. Yep. So, it's possible. I know that a lot of people have them in their cars. That can be a thing. But, you could even have a USB one. You could charge it up with a little USB charger. I've just thought of great ideas for the summer next year.
Okay, we're gonna have to write those down and definitely get to them on a future show. Stephen, as we head into the weekend, I want to take a moment to recognize the Third National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. It's a day where Canadians reflect upon the experiences and the history of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities in Canada. And of course, here in Access Tech Live, we're going to do that by this, kind of staying with the spirit of the show, which is recognizing just some, because we don't have time for all of them, of the Indigenous technology that continues to be used today to improve human lives. Everything from snow goggles to chewing gum, from the toboggan to the kayak, and the active ingredient in today's most commonly used pain relief to a cure for scurvy. If it wasn't for these innovations and inventions and more, we would not be as advanced a civilization as we are today. Thank you guys for being here on this edition of Access Tech Live. Thank you to Shaun Preece. Of course, if you want to check out Shaun of the Shed, you can do that right now. It's up. We're going to post a link on our social media. On behalf of Shaun Preece and Stephen Scott, I am Marc Aflalo. We're excited to bring you more tech news next week right here on Access Tech Live. So join us again, will you? Thanks for watching.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Tech Live. Follow us online at all social media at Access Tech Live. Email us feedback@accesstechlive.com. Hosted by Stephen Scott in Glasgow and Marc Aflalo in Montreal. Written by Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo. Live show director, Anastasia Spalding-Stenhouse. Technical director, Caitlin Robinson. Audio, Jordan Mulgrave. Live graphics and playback, Kingsley Juco. Graphics coordinator, Eliza Rocco. Integrated described video specialist, M. Williams. Supervising producer, Michelle Dudas. Copyright 2023, Accessible Media, Inc.